Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to talk about some of the early leaks for our upcoming chapter of 1055 of One Piece, and we'll hopefully know a little bit more about the events that are going to happen at the end of the arc. In these early leaks, we're going to get a little bit more information about the country of Wano, as it was originally, and the events that made it a country as we know it today. And also in this chapter, we're going to have information about the confrontation between Momonosuke and Ryukyu, as well as a very interesting feat coming from Shanks. Keep in mind that these are just early leaks, so some of the things that we may talk about may happen in a different way in which we cover it, but they may still kind of have glimmerings of what's going to happen in the chapter. As more leaks come out, please make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to be bringing you more news about this chapter and be able to bring you better detailing about the incredible events that are happening now in this final stage of the One Piece manga. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, or even if you've been around for a bunch of episodes, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like, or even subscribing and leaving us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing the video or the channel with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into these early leaks. In the previous chapter of 1054, we saw that Admiral Ryukyu is currently having a confrontation between Momonosuke, the Red Scabbards, and Yamato, while Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats are celebrating, and also have no idea that this is currently going on. While we're also entreated to the scene that outside of Wano, we see Shanks and his crew, who are very close to the country of Wano. However, he says that he's not going to be going after to find Luffy yet because he has to go after Bartolomeo. But we also get the exciting news when Shanks says that now is the time to find the One Piece. And at the end of the chapter, we see that Akainu is talking to some high-ranking Marines within the organization, and they're worried about the events that are taking place since Sabo apparently took the life of the King of Alabasta. These allegations have made him a great symbol for the revolutionaries, and in this way, it's setting up the time for a great battle between the revolutionaries and the world government because of Sabo's actions, or at least alleged actions, because Sabo was able to also rescue Kuma, something that left the Heavenly Dragons and even Akainu really enraged. In this way, there are several big conflicts that are getting ready to start in the work of One Piece. Of course, we have an admiral in search of capturing Luffy, Shanks hunting Bartolomeo, and the revolutionaries finally making their move to destroy the world government. And in these leaks, we have information about some events that will be in the beginning of these big clashes. In these initial leaks for chapter 1055, it's also been revealed that there is going to be some important information that could be very important to the future of the work. But before we dive into the deeper part of the leaks, as we do with all of our leak videos, we're going to go over and list each of the topics so then we can go into greater detail about each one. So with all that said, my friends, let's go ahead and go over the list of the topics that we'll cover. First off, we have Momonosuke prevents Yamato from intervening in the confrontation between Admiral Ryukyu and himself, because he wants to save the country of Wano alone, and that it is his duty as the Shogun. Next, we have that there is a fight between Momonosuke and Ryukyu. The third topic is that Momonosuke finally manages to use a Boro Breath, which does cause an injury to Ryukyu, but this isn't enough to defeat him, and right after receiving the blow, Ryukyu was ready to continue the confrontation until he felt the presence of Shanks. After that, Ryukyu, once he sensed Shanks' presence near Wano, he decides to give up on the confrontation, retreating to prepare a new strategy. Fifth, Sukiyaki takes Robin and Law to the depths of where the road poneglyph is, hidden in the Wano Country article. There he explains how the current Wano Country was built. Sixth, Wano was shown to be a bigger island, but for some unknown reason, it's gotten smaller over time. Seventh, in this chapter, we get new information from the poneglyph writings, in addition to information given to Nico Robin from Sukiyaki's conversation. Eighth, those Straw Hats are still partnering and don't have the slightest idea about the battle that was happening next to them. Ninth, the chapter ends with Luffy and his allies feeling a lot of haki emitting by some character, but they managed to realize that the haki was coming from Shanks. And finally, our 10th piece that we'll talk about is that in this chapter, we don't have an appearance from Kid. So now that we've covered these 10 topics in the chapter, let's now talk about what each of these topics might represent in a little bit more detail so that we can get an idea of what might happen in the overall chapter. Of course, at the beginning, we see that we have confirmation that Momonosuke is taking on an admiral alone, and Ryukyu even says that Momonosuke could be a Kaido wannabe. However, as we know, there's still a very large gap in strength between these two characters, but there's still a possibility that Momonosuke could become incredibly strong, managing to bring his strength much closer to the greater Kaido than we initially thought. But in order for Momonosuke to do this, it would take a lot of training for him to be able to strengthen himself, because Momonosuke is still much weaker than Kaido, which means that his strength is also very inferior to that of an admiral. However, even knowing that he was much weaker, Momo still persists in combat, and it is said that he's finally able to use a Boro Breath, a technique in which Kaido was able to easily destroy mountains. Now, we don't know if Momonosuke's Boro breath was strong enough to match that of Kaido's, but it is said that this technique was able to injure Admiral Ryukugyu, who was soon after being hit, still managed to get up and wanted to continue fighting. And this confrontation, of course, would have continued if it wasn't for Shanks' meddling, that even though he was far away, he was able to emit a large enough wave of haki near Wano. Now, we don't exactly know the reasons why he did it, but it could be that he wanted to warn Luffy that he was close. But because of his exposure to Shanks' haki, it made the Admiral afraid that Shanks might actually come to Wano to stop him. So Ryukugyu just backed off from the fight with Momonosuke. We don't know where Ryukugyu intends to go, as he is again without a boat, so he'll probably likely stay in Wano, waiting for some opportunity to arise for him to act. After the battle scene, we then change to a scene inside of Wano Castle, where Nico Robin still remains talking to Sukiyaki. But while they're talking, Law appears. Now, we don't know how he got to this place, but apparently he knows about the subject they were talking about, since Sukiyaki takes the two to a secret place. Sukiyaki then takes Robin and Law to the depths of ancient Wano, the location where the road poneglyph is located. And when they arrive there, Sukiyaki then explains about Wano's history. As the current Wano Kuni was built, of course we don't know if Robin was reading the poneglyph or not, but she and Law listen carefully about how Wano used to be before some accident happened that caused Wano to change completely. It is said that Wano was once a very large country, having several large islands around it, but something happened that made this country gradually increase in size, leaving only the cities and provinces that we currently know. In this way, Wano was losing its population, its power, and credibility in the world. Now, we still don't know what events occurred, but it's very likely that in this week of leaks of chapter 1055, we're going to get a little more information about the events that made Wano the way we know it is today. But so far in this chapter, we still have the information about the poneglyph that is in this secret underground location, in which few people know of its location. And in addition to that, we also get a little bit more information through Robin's dialogue with Sukiyaki. So far, this explicit dialogue has not been leaked, but when more leaks about this conversation emerge, we're going to bring it here to the channel. But while Law, Nico Robin, and Sukiyaki are in the underground of Wano talking, the scene then goes back to the Flower Capital, where Luffy and his companions are still celebrating. And while their celebration is ongoing, they somehow feel Shanks' presence, as well as Momonosuke, the Red Scabbards, and Ryukugyu, who are right next to him. And instantly, Luffy recognizes that the presence is in fact Shanks's. Knowing our favorite rubber captain, this of course makes him all the more excited and curious to know why Shanks was this close to Wano. So he and his companions go to the place where Shanks was. While this dialogue happens, we see that Kid is nowhere to be found, which means that Kid most likely sensed Shanks' presence long before everyone else, motivating him to go after his rival. And there's an even higher possibility that Kid is already very close to Shanks, which means that there could be another battle between Kid because he was never able to forgive Shanks for defeating him. Now, as a courtesy to those who may not know the full backstory, Shanks is the one responsible for taking off Law's arm during the first confrontation they had. So Kid has been seeking revenge, and having sensed Shanks' presence near Wano, he may have left first to have the opportunity to go after him. But again, in this chapter so far, we have not seen Kid going to Shanks, but there's still a big possibility of this happening because of the aforementioned motivations. But the most interesting part of this chapter will be Nico Robin's conversations with Sukiyaki. During their conversation, we're going to get a lot more important information about the events of the Lost Century, about the origin of Wano, and the possible location where one of the 3 ancient weapons in the world of One Piece is located. Because after all, we have recently learned that Pluton's resting place is in fact Wano. So friends, in the coming days, we're hoping to have much more information about this chapter, about the dialogue between these characters and these events, and possibly some leaked images. And in this way, we'll be able to bring a review of all the events and the details about this chapter, but for now, all we can do is wait for the next set of leaks. So with all that said, what are some of the things that you were excited to learn more about? Is it about the road poneglyph, about the history of Wano, about why Shanks is near Wano, and how Luffy and company managed to feel his presence? Let us know what you're excited for in the comments below. So as we wrap things up for the day, my friends, I want to thank you so much for watching the video all the way up to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like or maybe hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I can't wait to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.